Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian H. Waters here with Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings. Coming up, I speak with Joel Gamble and Tavon Mason, two former NFL players who are now comic book authors. So we talk about that and we talk about what they are doing to give back to this great city of Baltimore. Ladies and gentlemen, here's my interview. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings. It's a special episode as I have two good brothers right here from Baltimore, Maryland. The one and only Joel Gamble and Tavon Mason. Brothers, how y'all feeling today?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. I know y'all working on a comic book, right? Am I correct? A comic book, and the beauty of it, it's showing representation. I was talking to my wife about it last night as I was telling her I was getting ready to do this interview. So I'm really excited to really talk about that. How did you guys? When did this idea come about?
Tavon, you can take it away.
It's been in the making for years. So I kicked off my Tavon Mason Love the Kids summer reading tour back in 2015 and 16. And 2 years ago, Joe came out to support one of my readings at the Solus Point Library. And that summer, I told Joe I'll probably take a break the following summer from doing my reading tour, just to regroup. Because I had some changes within my foundation. So he came up with his own children's book. I had my children's book, and then along the lines of doing both children's book, we reading in separate divisions or separate areas. Joe was like, "Man, we should come together and do a joint reading tour together." You know what I mean? So we can show that continuity, showing us, brothers getting together, and in general, not even just making it a race thing, but men in general. Because a lot of times men tend to want to do their own thing because of the pride thing. And we broke down and we came together to start the Joel and Tavon reading program. And from that, our minds just started blasting off. And I was like, Joel, you know what? How about you ever thought about us coming up with our own book? So I started talking about something like real, like with the imagination, because we love working with kids. That's been our movement for years. And I just know me as a kid, my imagination will run, whether I'm playing with my Matchbox cars, playing with my G.I. Joe. So we started coming up with ideas on what to put in this book. And then Joel said, instead of going on a venture, how about it has something to do with our jerseys? And the next thing you know, we just started plugging it in. But the idea started to fade out. We kind of like pushed it aside. And then we focused on our reading tour before the pandemic hit. And then we revisited it. And I think this, Joel, I think this is a time for us to bring this out, especially with the content of the comic book.
Yeah, I think it's huge, like Tavon said, with men coming together and working together. We've always been in the community for over a decade now. And just for folks to see us coming together and working together as former NFL players, and being able to, have our children's books and come together. The reading tour is huge. It's special for the kids, man. We've done it now in several elementary schools, and just seeing the kids' faces light up, when we come into the auditorium and we're handing out free books and doing our readings, and Tavon's getting them up out of their seat, doing jumping jacks, and, we're getting them excited to read. And it just takes you back to when, as a kid, your mom, your dad will read to you, read a bedtime story. And, I think that's really important. One of the, what we're trying to get across is, getting that reading at a young age and helping to push forward the literacy and the reading grade levels, up in our inner city youth. And so, we really are pushing literacy and really are pushing, kids reading at a young age. And, it's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where are y'all from? I know y'all from Baltimore, but which area?
So I grew up West Baltimore in the Emerson Village area before my family and I, we moved just across the county line by Caranan to Baltimore County.
Okay.
And I'm West Baltimore too, right over by Carver High School, where I'm born and raised.
Okay, so y'all from the west side. My church is over there.
Yeah.
Christian Memorial Church off of North Avenue on Payson Street.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right over there where I was born. I'm right off of. I lived north in Smallwood.
Oh yeah, you right there. So you the late great Reggie Reg used to go to the church,
Yeah.
and him and my uncle, who also has passed on, they were kind of like according to my mother, they was two on the young people's choir together, and was always getting into trouble. Which high schools did y'all go to before you went to college?
I went to Woodlawn High School.
Okay.
I went to Carver High School.
Oh, okay. Now, when did you know that you were going to be NFL bound? Obviously, as somebody who didn't play sports, I'll speak from my point of view. I went to Baltimore City College, and of course, you got your friends who going out there dominating on the football field. So when you're in school, you sitting up there saying, "All right, let me get your autograph because you're gonna be the guy," and then life happens and you realize, I have one of my friends, shout out to Sheldon Bell, who went to Duke, but and then Eric Johnson, who went, I think, Delaware. But when did y'all know, and when did your friends and family know that the NFL was going to happen?
I would say for me, I always had dreams and aspirations of the NFL. I remember even looking at now, I have an essay in elementary school, and it said that I wanted to be a professional athlete. That was one of the goals that I had. But the point in time where I actually knew that I had what it took was, I would say, in college, around my sophomore year, when I led the team in receiving touchdowns at tight end. And then NFL scouts started to come out to our practices. ESPN had listed me on their draft chart as a 6th round, 7th round draft pick. And, then it started to get more realistic. I would say for friends and family, they still didn't understand or know, because everybody looks at the statistics of, what is it, 0.2% that actually make it to the NFL. So a lot of people are like, well, you went to Shippensburg, you went to Carver High School, Division II college, and I didn't get drafted. And so, it took me a long time, and it was a long journey to actually make it to the NFL. So not a lot of people, believed or, knew that I was going to make it until I was there. And then, then it happened. So, I would say in college, when I started to, blossom into, a better player, that, I started to realize that, hey, this dream is really, this could happen.
Yeah, and for me, I knew in elementary school that's what I wanted to be, just like Joel, but never knew the steps to get there. You would see it on TV, and in my mind, I would think, like, how are these guys getting there? Because my favorite receiver when I was young, since I was born in the 80s, was Jerry Rice. So, seeing him play and watching the other receivers as it came along, I didn't really get into organized football until I saw one of the older dudes in the neighborhood came with his equipment on. He played at Woodlawn Rec with the Woodlawn Cowboys. And I'm like, dude, where do you get that from? Because my parents used to get me the Hutch joints you buy out of the store. Helmet and that jersey. And me and my brother would have it. And then when I saw him with real equipment, that's when I ran in the house. And I was like, I got to play football, something called Woodlawn Rec. And my mom was against it. Mom's like, oh, you going to get hurt? I don't want you to get hurt. I think that's like the one time I worried my father at the time before him and my mom split up. Like, Dad, I got to play, man. You got to sign me up. And it didn't, same with Joe, it didn't really hit until college. I was a man in high school, but I also understood as you move up the ladder, you always got to start back over. So I didn't.
Everybody the man.
How college was going to go. I was at UVA. The time I was at college in the 98, 99, they wanted the big, tall receivers, the 6'4". It wasn't into the 5'11" or shorter receivers like they are now. Mm-hmm. So getting that call was huge. The one thing is funny, me and my wife were just talking about it, about the whole football thing and seeing guys who, you see that drop passes or who, doing a lot of the wild stuff, and they continue to get opportunities. And I always say I kick myself in the butt because I missed the call from the Eagles. And the time when the Eagles called me is when Brian Mitchell retired, and I returned. I was known for returning at UVA, and I would have filled his spot if I answered the call. But again, not having that mentor to tell you that, hey, answer the phone after the draft is over. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to answer the phone. So I'm thinking it was my family. Hey, man, don't worry about it. I just feel like hearing that. But then, if I would have answered that call with the Eagles, I probably would have played longer than the 2 years. But I'll say the same thing with Joe was in college, probably after my redshirt freshman year, when stuff started to turn a little bit. And then my senior year, my last year there, when I took that kick return back against Georgia Tech, I was like, man, I can do this. I was like, if I can do this with these guys, I can do that up there, just learning the offense or whatever I'm going to play.
Now, when y'all was in the league, did they focus a lot on life after football the way they do now? I have a couple of friends. One works for the Oakland Raiders, another works for the Chicago Bears that I used to work with at ESPN, and they transition. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they tell me about their jobs is preparing athletes for life after football. And obviously y'all doing well and giving so much back and being a blessing to the community. Was this something that happened in school, or was this, was this something that you were prepared for while you were in the NFL, or was this just something that you did personally when you knew that, football was going to come to an end?
Well, me, it's just, I felt like that was my job. So the NFL don't prepare for that. The NFL, what they do is, if no matter your level, whether you high level or you're a free agent, if they got certain initiatives they want to get done, they will actually, hey, you want to come along and do this. So it wasn't like a set, this is what you should do, you get out. Or, some of the higher guys have PR people like, this would be a good look. Me personally, I just felt this was my purpose. Like, I got the opportunity to get here. I've seen so many before me and after me who didn't pan out. So I wanted to be able to come back, kid from Baltimore, West Baltimore, made it to got a full scholarship to a D1 school, made it with the New York Jets, played well, was able to do what I wanted to do, and came back and gave back. Because sometimes you see a lot of guys don't do that. I know when I was with the Jets and the guy, the people would ask for autographs after we get off practice field, we see a lot of guys that walk past them. Me, I'm humbled enough, I would go over and talk to him for like hours at a time, because to me, my mind was like, well, they paying for me to be here. So I'm not just going to turn my back on them. So the same way coming back home to Baltimore, I didn't want to do that either.
Yeah, for me, it was, I would say it was a tough transition. The NFL didn't really, well, when I was playing, that was a decade ago, the NFL didn't really prepare us for transition for life after football. So, a lot of guys would be depressed. I would say I was depressed for about 2 years, going from playing, for 3 different teams to the lockout is what made it hard for me to get back into the NFL. So it wasn't like an injury or, anything that was stopping me from playing. The lockout hit, and then they opened it up and drafted college players and didn't give a lot of free agents a chance to sign again. And so, it took me a while to kind of get myself together and realize that, hey, my opportunity, the window is closing for me. And I would say for a while, I said that I didn't want to help anybody. I worked so hard. My journey was long. I finally got to this opportunity. I'm there, playing for teams, enjoying the process, doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. And this was taken away from me. And so it's funny how God works, because, what we have planned for our lives doesn't really seem to pan out in comparison to, the overall big picture. And so, it seems as though God wanted me to give back. And so the NFL is a platform. It's become a platform for, me to give back to youth. Working with kids is a passion of mine. And so it's become a platform for me to be able to reach lots of people in the community and be able to provide resources for kids that me and Tavon possibly didn't have when we were coming up. I'm talking about free camps, literacy. We never had, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tavon, but I know I never had an NFL player come into my school and actually talk to me or read a children's book to me at all.
Nope.
And so, I think like Tavon said, it's a job. It's kind of like our duty, and God is pushing us and, to move in that direction and kind of be that role model for kids to see, so that when they get an opportunity and they were given the opportunities that we had, that they would do the same thing when they get that chance.
Yeah, I think that's cool. One of the things I was listening to your interview from I think a week ago, and y'all said that one of the things y'all do is y'all wear the jerseys when y'all go there, and it's amazing to see black athletes, especially in a day and age where, let's call it for what it is, what's going on. The police are taking away fathers out of the home with these unarmed killings, but when you can see a positive black man come in who used to play in the NFL, who's can come read to the children, I think that's a great thing. Was there ever a consideration not to come back to Baltimore when your careers were done?
I think for me, no.
Okay.
It was always there. I always wanted to still be able to, move around, see different places when I was really still chasing the NFL. The only way the probably thing that would have kept me away if I would have gotten married early and I stayed away. But I didn't mind coming back. My big thing was I wanted to give back to our city. I know a lot of athletes, they give where they play at. But my thing was, this Baltimore, that's in the blood, and carry it strong, and I wanted to give back here because, again, like Joel said, not being able to have that or see that, we had a former athlete that graduated from Woodlawn High that played with the Bills, and I'm Carlton Bailey, and I never seen him come back, and that was huge for me. The same way with Joel, my thing was I would call it being touchable. So when Joel and I go into schools wearing our jerseys, it's not just, we don't have a million people around us stopping people from coming up. No, we sit right in in the auditorium seats with the kids. If Joel's reading, I'm sitting right in the middle of the kids. If I'm reading, Joel doing the same thing. We don't sit apart. We interact, and if they're doing stuff, I think that might be the teacher side, and if they're doing stuff, we tell them, hey man, chill out, man, just relax. It just comes with the process. But I think that's also about being touchable, because not only with the kids, when you have adults, the moms and staff that come up because they're super excited, it's still also being touchable with them, because that can tell a sign of how they approach those kids once they leave us, to know like, wow, we have some people from Baltimore that really care and not just here for a photo op. So I never thought about not coming back to Baltimore. I knew I wanted to, if I was going to give and help, it had to be back here in Baltimore.
And same with me. Like Tavon said, this is where we're from. The main thing is, no matter, we always going to come back, even if it is a probability that we will move or anything like that. Like, this is where we're from. And so it's always going to be, a reason for us to come and give back. And so, like I said, not having the resources when we were young, and wanting to provide better opportunities and more resources for kids to be successful and put them in a great position is the reason why we actually give, the way we do now.
Okay, and you talk about books. Generally, what type of books are you reading when you go to these schools? Do the students pick out the books? Do the teachers, or do you guys have a set of books that you take to read to them?
Yeah, so we both have our children's books. Tavon has Tavon Does It All, and I have The Little Gladiator. And so we both get a chance to read our children's books to the kids. So we take turns. We usually take a few books, and we actually take usually about 200 or more books so that the kids after the reading can get the books, and take them home with them. But usually what we do is put them on the overhead so everybody in the audience can see, and then we take turns reading our books to the kids, so they get 2 readings. And so we're super excited once we get the comic book finished, so that we can go and read the comic book, which is the collaboration book.
Yeah. And I think with us reading our own book, that adds on to us coming in with our jerseys on. So not only do you have Baltimore bred boys that played in the NFL, that graduated from college, played in NFL, they come back to visit the schools, but they're also authors. So I think, because my biggest thing with writing once I got past my first book was doing away with the old school stigma of the dumb jock, like only thing we do is play sports and that's all we do. And I think with us, we're showing not only do, with having our own foundations and, giving back to the community, but we also authors, we write. So it's like, oh, wow, they didn't just go just to play. Yeah, we wanted to play in NFL, but our mind was always kind of like crafted to make sure we do more than what the stigma was. So us reading our own books, having our jerseys, and it's made by us and it's written and everything and done by 2 people from Baltimore is huge, because when we did our reading at Matthew Henson, just seeing the looks on the kids' faces when they walked away with the autographed books. And some kids actually sat right there and started reading, looking through the books at that time. So that's huge for Baltimore City, because we get that bad, that we get that bad vibe from other places, like our Chicago. The first thing you hear when Baltimore is not how great a city is, oh man, you from the wire, y'all wild down there. So we wanted to change that, of seeing us coming from the so-called wild place, but we're doing something more than just, whether it's hustling or not even succeeding or even just graduating high school and that's it.
Yeah. Now, when you're out there, let's talk about the comic book. What made you decide to do a comic book this time? Like, what was the planning process and to go the comic route?
So it started off with the idea about the jerseys, and us finding, as kids, finding the jerseys in the sand. And so I'm not going to get into too much detail, but we go back and forth from kids to superheroes in the book, and we decided to kind of make it a superhero book or a comic book series, because we don't see, we just thought about it. We don't see a lot of African American superheroes. We just saw the Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to him. And we saw how impactful that was, with having a representation of a Black man in a superhero mode. We've always seen Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. Those are probably the most popular 3 superheroes that we saw growing up. And, I know for me, I didn't know much about the Black Panther when I was a kid. And so seeing that representation and seeing kids at elementary school actually getting a chance to realize that, obviously we're not going to be jumping off buildings and stuff like that in real life, but just to see themselves as a superhero in a film is amazing, and so that representation is huge, and we wanted to provide that, especially being educators in books in the school. We don't, in elementary school, I've worked in elementary school for 7 years, and now 2 years in high school, and I never really saw any children's books with Black characters or Black superheroes, for that matter. So
yeah, and we also wanted to grab the kids' attention. So we were thinking, how can we come up with a book that will grab the kids' attention, especially with battling with technology and the beyond. Again, like Joe said, working in education, a lot of kids don't really care about reading, but we wanted to come up with something to where they grab their attention. We know, like Joe said, they like superheroes, especially in the elementary school age. They like seeing color. They like seeing stuff that's almost like a fireworks type. So we came up with the idea of a comic book where it wasn't a long read, but it grabbed their attention. And then creating a series, because we got 4 series, then it's kind of like that cliffhanger. You know, when you used to watch G.I. Joe, and it was like, you know, stay tuned for the next. Will this happen? You're like, dang, man, I got to wait till next week. So we wanted to come up with the idea to make them want to get the next series, but also have it in mind. Like, I got to get this. I got to get this. Instead, I got to get the new video game, or I got to get the new video game console. I want this comic book. So what's the next series? Because if you look at the, you know, in time, it went from that to with technology started increasing, the actual sitting down, going outside, sitting down and looking at books and magazines are starting to go down, because you can just hit a button and it's right there. So we wanted to give something physical that the kids can take home with them, digest the same way with our children's book. You know, the kids hold on to it. My good friend, James, his son's mom sent me a picture and was like, he bought the book for his son 3 or 4 years ago, and she was like, he won't let this book go. And I was like, yeah, me and Joel got a comic book coming out. She was like, well, I can't wait till that come out so we can switch books, but he wouldn't let the book go. And that's what we want to grab. We want kids to be able to grab with the comic book, like carry that with you everywhere.
Yeah, we super excited. I'm trying to tell you, man, you know, the excitement is just bubbling up inside of me. You know, we took the time to write 4 books. And like Tavon said, the suspense at the end of each book is going to keep everybody on the edge of their seat, wanting more. And so I'm just thrilled to, you know, to bring it to the public, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. So like when it comes to the writing, you know, I'm a big Power fan, and after Power goes off, I like watching the like after shows that Courtney Kemp, the writer, was doing, and then you know they did the thing this year. But you hear them discuss like the process, and sometimes there is you know a conversation. So when y'all putting this together, are y'all two the only writers, and is there ever a conflict on what the cliffhanger will be?
Yeah, we're actually the only writers.
Okay.
And so I don't remember any conflict taking place. We kind of, I mean, it's actually wild how it came together. You know, it's wild how it's just meshed perfectly. How we wrote, you know, how we were, you know, just writing and putting everything together. And we kind of fed off of each other, you know, like Tavon would come up with an idea, you know, about a villain, and he will run with that. And then I will come up with an idea of how to defeat it and to add on, and then another villain in the next series. And then so, you know, it just kind of was perfectly put together. And, you know, that's why we're so excited about it, man, you know, because we want to continue on and maybe even possibly grow it into a cartoon series, you know, talk to PBS, you know, Marvel and DC, and see what they think about, you know, even making it into a cartoon.
Yeah, it really was, you know, holding each other accountable. And our third leg, our publicist, Letitia Chambers, she helped out a lot, because with me and Joe both being busy, and we got hit with that pandemic teaching, and with having that, you know, doing that stuff, then on top of still trying to maintain our organizations at the same time, and also find our own sanity within what was going on, we still had to hold each other feet to the fire. Because every days I didn't feel like writing, but then Joel, hey man, you gonna have that done by this week? I like, let me get back on it, because I will. That's how with my children's book and even my first book, I'll flow, and then my mind would just shut down. I would leave it alone. But you know, when you writing with someone, you can't do that, because you don't want to keep it hanging, because you want to make sure that everything in your mind comes on the paper and that ideas keep rolling. So hold each other accountable, and then having Letitia being that third voice to make sure we stand on point with deadlines. I think that's like the key when you work outside of your solo bubbles, to have deadlines and keep them, and just keep maintaining that vision. So I think another thing that helped us generate and really knock this book out fast, because we knocked all 4 out fast, was having the cover done. So once we got the cover done, that because I'm a visual person, so that opened my mind up and thinking of what else can we put in, you know what I mean? And on top of doing a comic, the crazy thing about it is that we wrote about all real life issues or situations that are actually going on now in our current state, or not even the current state, prior to all this stuff coming out, has been going on. It's just getting airplay now. We actually took current events and made it into a imagination, but giving you that feel like, wow, this is what's going on now. So yeah, the accountability is the big thing.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited about it, especially when you guys discussed villains. And I have to ask this question. I don't know if you're gonna answer it or not, but The Last Dance just aired. It got us through the beginning of the pandemic, and on there we saw Jerry Krause. We go to social media, and then it's revealed that the guy on Space Jam was kind of a mimic of Jerry Krause. And of course, when the movie came out, maybe I was younger, so I didn't know about the business side of basketball. Will we see any Jerry Krauses in these villains? Maybe it's a coach, or maybe a city official, or a GM. Will we see any of those kind of subliminals in this?
It's a possibility. We have politicians.
Yeah.
We have politicians lined up in the book. We have our villains. I'll just say this. We tackle Brian trying to get it out of us, bro.
I had to ask.
He trying, bro. And I'm holding back too. So look, we tackle a wide variety of community issues. So, from gentrification in the community to bullying in schools, to food deserts, and we actually turn those things into villains. And so, you'll see us, actually taking on those issues and those villains as superheroes. And so, it's going to be imagination. It's going to be nice for the imagination when you see, how things are being gentrified in the community and how we tackle that as kids, but still superheroes. It's a lot to unpack, but it's going to be huge.
Well, it sounds like with this, you are taking this route to educate and provide a lot of the education that we didn't get as in middle school, elementary, middle school. When you talk about issues like gentrification, most of us didn't find out about that till we were adults. So I think that's what really makes this exciting. I think about my 10-year-old son, who would definitely, I'll make sure I buy him a copy of this. This seems like something that'll get his mind going when he starts getting into this. Like, well, what's this? And it creates those conversations.
Yep, the conversations.
I really like y'all attacking it this way because sure, there's a gazillion articles out there on stuff. The information is out there. Just a lot of people aren't digesting it the same way. But this is another route that is really creative.
Yeah, it again, the way we're doing it, we'd be putting it in a form of where the kids are used to. They're used to the cartoon way. They're used to seeing stuff live and action. And we wanted to do something in reality. Again, going back to Joel and I working in the school system, our kids are tackling adult situations in like elementary, middle school, where they gotta basically like take care of the household or take care of their little brothers, and they seen it at an early age. And we didn't want to give out the fantasy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Parents want to allow their kids to see like a lot of the fantasy stuff because they don't want them to have to see reality just yet. But in the book, we wanted kids and even adults that read it that to their kids that the things that are going on, you can't really hide from it for long. So instead of just holding off and letting children see it on their own, allow them to start embracing it now. So when it comes, it's not a shock, and also it opened the mind to some of the young people, especially that's doing a lot of protesting. It's a lot of stuff they're tackling at high teens and low 20s, so the comic book series no, we wanted to go that route. We didn't want it to go the route of make believe. We want them to have that fun with seeing the pictures and, you know, seeing the action, but we also wanted to let you know it is a lesson behind it. Mm-hmm. It's not like you said, the million articles, because I know me, I start out with an article. If it's long, I'm just going to scroll to the main points. But if you got something that's going to grab you piece by piece, you're going to want to keep coming back to it.
And this is, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the conversations that parents are able to have with the kids about each series. So, you know, like I said, each series has, you know, its different issues. And so the parents will be able to, you know, like you said, it's a lesson in each of the stories. And so, you know, we'll be able to have those discussions once each series comes out. Those discussions will be able to be had in reference to what's going on and educating kids in depth.
That's awesome, man. So before we get out of here, let the people know how they can support and let them know where they can find you and how they can, you know, support this project.
Oh, yeah, man. You got to go to the Kickstarter. So you go to Kickstarter.com and search in The Justice Duo. You know, what's one thing that's really great, I know a lot of people saw it, Joel and I posted, you know, we opened this Kickstarter crowdfunding last week. You know, and, you know, of course, we had some reservations about it because it's a comic book, but, you know, we have reached our set goal in a week. So the supporters, you know, from Twitter and, you know, and from friends and really like some complete strangers, just the idea of it, supported it. You know, you can still support our Kickstarter. You know, we have the campaign open until the end of September. And we got the cool thing about our Kickstarter. You know, Joel and I and Letitia, we added tiers when you give and certain prizes you can get. So go to Kickstarter. I ain't gonna tell you the prize you have to. I want you to go to Kickstarter and look up the Justice Duo. But you can find me on Twitter at tmason18. My foundation on Twitter at tmltkf. My foundation's website is TavonMasonLoveTheKids.org. And the same on Facebook and the same on Instagram. I appreciate you for having me, man.
No problem. I appreciate you guys coming on. Joel?
Yeah, Brian. Everything that Tavon said, check out our Kickstarter, type in the Justice Duo, and you'll be able to see not just the cover photo for, you know, our comic book, but you'll also be able to see the video that we posted, our why we came together and why we wanted to do this for kids. And then you can reach me at Joel Gamble. Joel_Gamble on Instagram, the Joel Gamble Foundation on Facebook, Joel Gamble Foundation on Instagram as well. Or if you just want to Google the Joel Gamble Foundation, you'll find all of our social media as far as the foundation will pop up. I appreciate it, Brian, for having.
No problem, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure y'all support this project. I'll make sure that the links are in the description. So if you're listening in your cars right now, when you pull over, make sure you click the link. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click the link as well. Gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having us.
This podcast is brought to you by B. Waters Productions. It is produced and edited by myself, Brian H. Waters, with the music brought to you by Hypnosis. You can find Hypnosis on Instagram at hypno_beats.